Yeah, it's your man D Gambit back in the building. You already know. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So ain't like them old school dudes be like glad to be seen. But in all seriousness, for real, glad to be seen. I hate to be that person that say nowadays, but yeah, man, for real. It is really good to be seen for real. So I gotta say like, subscribe. Y'all know how it goes. I mean, just so we can keep bringing you this ill content, the best conversations that you ever had. We should be having my man Ronnie B. We should have had Ronnie B. Last week. We're gonna get that connected. But like I said, man, like and subscribe. A lot more shit coming for y'all. Yeah, DG, let's get into it. So you know how we do. We got to talk about the real shit, Mr. Real Talk in the building as we enter. Yes, man. So I hope everybody doing good. If not, hope you're taking the steps to uh, try to get better. You know what I mean, and just move in the direction that you need to move in, and get everything going. And if it's health, hopefully we can get that together and mix some of that intuition and and what the doctor tell you, don't sleep on what the doctor tell you. Hold on to our great customs and home remedies and our know-how and things from before that our ancestors and grandmothers and Big Ma and all that taught us, of course. But don't sleep on going to the doctor. Make sure that we're doing that, especially those of us that's in our 30s, 40s, 50s. So yeah, let's make sure that we do that. So yeah, I just want to start off with that. And I wasn't even gonna get into this, but for some reason it's on my heart, I guess you could say, to say just gratitude as well. We touched on it a little bit before. So yeah, just gratitude as well. So just make sure that you spending some time just lending some thought to everything that you got going for you. I don't care what that you got going against you. That's a hurt. Remember we said hurdles, not walls, hurdle that's going on in your life. So remember, your kids is healthy. Your loved ones that are alive. Whether they are your biological family or your family that you so carefully put together, which is sometimes even better. So so just let's start off with that. So before we get into anything else, or before we got into anything else, I just want to make sure that I mention that. So I just want to get into that. So again, like I said before, I also want to start off by saying, anyone who continues to listen to the show on Spotify, uh, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, that will continue. As a matter of fact, this will be simultaneously on there as well. So shout out to everybody that's listening right now, audio wise. You in the car, you rolling out. We continuing to season 14, believe it or not. So same. Nothing has changed for anybody who come from D Gambit Radio. Same thing. Like I told you guys before, we'll make sure that we get it more interactive, like we had it there, because I know people, was with that. So yeah, man, just wanted to get a couple of those things out the way before we, dive into what's going on. Thank you for everybody who has been, participating and rocking with it and loving it and watching on social media and let's go. Real talk, D Gambit. So, now that we took it there, sometimes we have to go ahead and talk about the shit that's going on in the world. So of course that we do that. A lot of times that we talking about uplifting, self empowerment, but we gotta do it. We gotta do it. Last time we talked about fear mongering. And of course there's a lot of fear mongering that's going on and will continue to go on. That's just the nature of the new beast. That's the way that it's going on online. That's we talked about people being in a vacuum and sort of just seeing things being fed to them by the algorithm, making you think that everybody in the world think like you think, but they really just, showing you the sentiment of people who think the exact same thing. Now, with that being said, I know there's a lot of people just kind of like we mentioned before, telling people exactly what to be mad at, telling people exactly what's the thing that's the most important right now that we're talking about, that we're concerned with. What's the next thing? Moving on to this, moving on to that. People stop even thinking about what they was mad about months ago or weeks ago, and then they on to the next thing. And it's that used to happen at a slower rate before, but now it's just like. But anyway, so we got to talk about so I hear people, and I'm of course, unless you've been into Iraq, it's just like okay, so World War III question mark. Now potentially that's what people will get into. And so people are saying, so question mark, are we at oh so even besides all of that, even if it's not that major, that's yet to be seen. We shall see. But just war period, question mark. Are we at war? And so what's beginning to happen is they the I don't even want to say Republicans or Democrats. Let's just say politicians, leaders, people that's really talking about it. The people on CNN and all these different networks and Fox News and what have you. They are talking about it as if it's a question. Are we at war? Are we not? And then most of them, no, I wouldn't call it a war. More of a conflict, more of a. And so now, by the way, your man's they boss, the so-called leader of the free world, is saying the word war. He's like, yeah, the war, and he's like saying it. Meanwhile, everyone else is just like, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it. Now, see, what's happening is you have a situation to where we have entered the era of continuous war. We are in the era of continuous war. Now, that has, to a certain extent, always been the case for a very long time, if not always, because people always will have quote unquote conflicts, wars, fights, whatever. But if you're talking about, especially since, let's just go back to, let's just say maybe let's start around roughly, let's just say the Gulf War, right? And all of the conflicts and different things that happen surrounding that. From that point, if you realize, if you kind of piece it together, there has been things that have happened so closely together that it really was no end. You talk about occupation in different regions of the world by different world powers that never ceased. You're talking about, even if you're just talking about Afghanistan, you're talking about an occupation that lasted longer than 20 years. Anyway, so what we're talking about is misdirection. And so everything has evolved. There was a time to where things begin to happen. You start using words. Now to backtrack, now all words have connotations. People have begin to learn that very well. And people who end up speaking to people, especially if you want to say manipulating people or even just speaking to people, have learned very well that all words have connotation. And so when you start talking about especially things like the word war, they've learned over and over and over throughout the years. They've seen that when people hear even just that word, or when it's framed that way, or when they got too much information, people begin to be more concerned and they do not support it. They want it to stop and things like that. So it's easier and it's more slick and it's a different type of thing and a different way to approach it and a different way to present it to people to call it a conflict or anything else for that matter, just anything but the word war. And see that's one of the things that we talked about before when we talked about what we mention uh just where we are in the world today as far as just a shift, if you will, a paradigm shift and a line being drawn in the sand, if you will, um, just of people deciding what side of the fence that they are going to be on. And so you can talk about morality, you can talk about mindset, you could talk about forward thinking versus keeping things the same. You could keep it. We're talking about advancement or not advancement. We're talking about a lot of different things. And so one of the things, like I said before, when you it's like evolve or die, and they're trying to evolve. They're trying to evolve the bullshit because they know that it's dying. It's starting to get transparent to where people can kind of really see what's going on, and people demanding to see what's going on, and people are like I said, it's a lot of bullshit conspiracy theories, but a lot of people are kind of hitting on shit a little bit now because they starting to pay attention to shit that they didn't pay attention to before, and it's still shit that's being they still running the option on your ass and being and sleight of hand and making you pay attention to this shit over here while the real shit is going on over there. Of course, that's still happening, but people are beginning to see kind of what's going on, and that's why the misdirection, because if you don't think that what you're putting out into the world is being paying attention to, it's just the shit just pivots. If you think that you have an enemy, the enemy, the so-called enemy is gonna when you have enemies, you gather intelligence and you see what they're doing and talking about and conspiring about, and you pivot. So they know that people out here talking about all of these different conspiracy theories, and they seen what happened before when people wanted war to stop, and people don't want to hear that type of thing. And so, shit, man. With all that being said, um, yeah, not that it's not anything to worry about, but it's definitely we are definitely in the era of continuous war. I've heard uh people come out and say like this is I think it might have been well I won't even get into who it was because I'm not even sure, but I heard somebody saying that this is when everybody gonna so-called get free. And that's never been a if or a when. It's just something that people gotta do if you're ready. Even yourself personally, even your group of people who you with or whatever, it's a conscious decision at this point to get free. That's what we talked about when we talked about that fork in the road. It's a conscious decision at this point to be free or to not be free. Because when people say that they're not free and people say that they are free, I mean, it goes to the cliche of, yeah, so of a man think of and that type of thing. Like, you're right, either way it go, whatever you think. So, um, I can really just go into how I feel and about what I think is going to happen, about what's going on. But I will not. But if you want to start talking about about what's going on, and with this Iran war and everything, just know that I'm telling you, we are in the era of of continuous war, and it's been like that uh, for I mean, what the '90s, 30 something years. So. Um, I will say this. When you know about history and you study history to a certain extent, you begin to notice cycles and patterns. And when you notice cycles and patterns, you come out with like what I'm saying now. You start noticing that, just like I just said, there is a continuous war cycle going on right now. And not that you shouldn't worry about it or some shit like that, but no matter what's going on, you have to continue to be in the mindset that you have to progress, and you have to prosper, you have to move, in accordance to what your goals are and things like that, and not let things that's going on in the outside world, uh, affect you like that because if you're talking about war, this is a natural state of the world. This is watch the National Geographic, you know what I mean? This is a natural, unfortunate thing in life that may happen, especially if people go about things in the wrong way, which these month man, they definitely going about shit in the wrong way. So it's gonna happen and we gotta find a way to get our society to a place to where this type of shit don't happen. But the way that it is now, it will happen. It will continue to happen. So what you got to do now is worry about the war that you got going on inside of you between you and you. And we talked about that shit before, but we're not gonna get into that. And then you start talking about that's the little circle, the Cheerio circle, the bigger circle, slightly bigger circle than that may be between you and your personal relationship with whoever you in the maybe a personal relationship with romantically, maybe even not even romantically, just any type of relationship. Could be a relationship with your family member, your family as a whole, even bigger circle, your community, that's even a bigger circle, and then on so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Then you start talking about the world at large. So sometimes you gotta work that shit from the inside out. Most of the time you gotta work it from the inside out. You wanna always know what's going on in the world, but always remember that you gotta work on the inner circle first because you'll never even get to being affected by a lot of the shit that you usually be concerned with, especially in the external world, and you'll end up being, uh, you know, torn down a little bit more about it. Little, the smaller circles that I just mentioned, those type of conflicts, So, we will. So you know what? We as I get more information, if y'all get more information, tell me more about that shit. We gonna talk about it all. And anybody that's been following any of the shows or the show, however you want to put it, as we merge this shit together, y'all know that sometimes we talk about a little bit of this, little of that, what's going on in the world. Sometimes we do get into the politics, but we'll get into that shit later. I had to speak on that shit though, So yeah, man, continuous war. That's what's going on, man, for real. But that shit just bring me to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is we got to get to that point to where we're using our intuition. Now, this starts to get into what I was talking about before. Um, well, when you start talking about the fact that everything is shifting into a different direction, and so people have long been in the mode of telling you exactly what you should do, exactly how things should be, exactly what you should believe, exactly how you should act according to who you are, your gender, your if you're a man, you should do XYZ. If you're a woman, you should do XYZ. If you're black, you're all the way down to anything that you can possibly think of, any unit of measurement, whatever, any type of person, any whatever, right? And so we are now getting to the point to where you have to use your intuition because now one thing that I notice is people have a very hard time discerning what is true or false, what is real and what's not real, who is who, and this type of thing. And so now you are forced to use nothing but your intuition. We have finally come to that point, which is evolution because and I know people don't like that word, but just follow me. Replace it with another word if you would like. You know what I mean? Progress, growth. But because I would imagine, and even scientists say that if a species or if a life form was even more intelligent than us, they wouldn't even have to talk. They would damn near be speak telepathically. And the same thing would go for even something like the flow state in sports. Anybody will tell you that really plays sports. Any professional will tell you. I'll tell you what. Everybody know. Cavs, you know what I mean? I'm from Cleveland. The Cavs finally won the championship. I don't want to hear nobody say shit about whatever. I don't stop it. Don't no debate. Whatever y'all want to say is shit was whatever. Look, check this out. I was watching Iman Shumpert talk about J.R. Smith. I know y'all want to talk about this shit. Me neither. But this go to my example. He's talking about when J.R. Smith, LeBron had like 50 something points. It was playing Golden State one of those years that they had KD, and JR made the mistake and he didn't know what to do and shit. And he made that mistake and LeBron was just like, and shit like that with the time running out. And he was basically saying like, oh, like he was like, it's like, oh, I wish it wouldn't have happened like that. I was mad, but or whatever. But what he was saying was JR, the thing that made JR so ill throughout all of those years he was in Denver, New York, and then Cleveland when we won the championship was he JR just do shit without thinking. And not I don't even mean to put it like that. I mean the way that you're supposed to do it. He do it if you're an athlete, you know you gotta do shit without thinking as far as you gotta be in it. You gotta do it. If you start thinking too much, that's when you mess up, is what he was trying to say. And JR was always good at reacting the way that an athlete is supposed to react, especially just being aggressive and just the way that he catch and shoot real quick and just, even go to the hole, be punching on people. And basically, what he was saying was exactly what I'm trying to get at now, which is sometimes when you get to thinking shit uh in your head around and around and around too much, that's when things go awry. And when you go with your gut, so to speak, that's when you usually are led in the right way. We talking about these red flags when you meet people. We talking about these bad vibes when you meet people. We talking about that feeling that you get when you know that you should go left or right. And not to even go down this lane, but I spent a lot of time, and I hate when people say this cliche type bullshit in the streets. But if you spend enough time on the darker side of things of shit that I've seen, and you definitely learn to use your intuition because it's just like it'll save your life if you like don't go down that street. Right now, it just don't feel like I should go in this direction. And if you from a city like where I'm from or any other place, especially in a big major city in the United States where shit is wild, that shit will save your life. So when you're talking about intuition, just like I just broke down about sports and shit, um, this is quite different. Now you always want to have a game plan going into action, just like a general at war, just like the art of war. You always want to have a strategy based on, the terrain, based on the size of your army, based on the situation, based on a lot of different things. However, when you do get into battle, get into your mission and get into whatever, however you want to put it, when you cooking, you gotta be cooking. You ain't got time to be trying to even the best cooks will tell you, speaking of cooking, that yes, if I was giving you a recipe, I would have to tell you the precise measurements to use and what, temperature to put the oven on and how long to keep it in there and things of that nature. But uh if I do so say so myself, I cook a little bit too. But if you really know how to cook, you're not measuring shit. You know how to put it together. So when you cooking in any way, really cooking and and literal or proverbial cooking, you have to be in that flow state. So we are finally at the time and that we are in right now in a time to where we have to use our intuition because you don't even know what's real or what's fake. Everybody mad at AI, which I kind of get the confusion of being uncomfortable of not knowing what's real and what's fake. But see, the thing that I'm not tripping about when it comes to AI is the fact that people been fake for a long ass time. Just forget visually, just in real life, period. Shit been fake for a long time. You got to discern. But I'm just saying all of that to say, man, when it come to uh the place that we are now in, you got to make sure that you're doing more than just trying to think everything on the intellectual level. Sometimes you just got to make sure uh that you're reading the room, so to speak. And shit, I mean, it's a journey, baby, and that brings me to my next topic. It's a spiritual journey. Or let's just say this. Life is a journey period, but if you are an individual and if you know anything about me, I'm pretty sure you already are there on somewhat in some form of a spiritual journey. Now, when you start talking about a spiritual journey, which I think everybody should at least consider going on some type of spiritual journey, just just remember that that's something that you have to do at some point, but just do it when you're ready and just be able to look at everything in life. It's the same thing as taking psychedelics. I'm not taking and telling anybody to do so, but you just got to make sure that you have your intentions in a certain place. You got to make sure that when you're ready to look at it, you're ready to look at it. This ties into therapy and things like that. When you're ready to look into your soul, so to speak, uh, just go ahead and do that if you ever get a chance, because that's the thing that will lead you through some doors that you have to go inside of yourself and go inside of your mind and open and go through and take a good look at, face, in order to not even, if yet, immediately conquer, but to at least be able to deal with. Because if you know, let's say a so-called enemy or thyself or whatever, you begin to at least know what you up against. I tell you what, one thing that tripped me out about life that I realized is that when you so-called face your fears, it still has like that it still has like the same element of danger. You might still be scared, but you'll either not be scared of that shit no more or not even in the same way. And I didn't really have like no fears or like no phobias or no. I have like regular fears like everybody else and shit, like being mediocre, not being successful, being broke and being just regular shit. But I don't really have like big phobias and fears. But when I was younger and even coming up, I had like a specific one of just like tornadoes, right? And I'm like, if I seen some shit like that in real life, I'd probably just faint or something. It'd be a wrap. Like it just seemed like it would be terrifying to me. And believe it or not, I was in what's that? Was that I think this is Warrensville Heights. It's up there. It's in Cleveland, Warrensville Heights, I believe. Up Richmond Road. I was going to school and it was like, break time type shit. People go out, smoke, take a break, I'm out there chilling. See, it was one dude out there with me on the phone. Weather was getting pretty bad, and when the weather get bad, sometimes it's a severe thunderstorm. Her, I mean, tornado warning, this type of thing. And I don't remember if we always like had TVs on or if when something like that happened that we would even be talking about it or a teacher would say something about it because this is college or whatever and ITT Tech and then we so I swear like we outside and no warning and nothing like that. It was like a dream. It was dark. It was like it looked like a real bad thunderstorm. And I just looked up and just saw a big ass tornado. And me and dude was just looking at each other like it was close enough to where like even if you was gonna run, you wouldn't even know what direction to run in. It was just like right there. And in that moment, I realized that Somehow it wasn't I wasn't even scared. It was just like, "Oh, shit. That's what I think it is." And I'm just saying all of this shit to say, when it come to facing your fears, you'll be shocked and surprised at your next reaction and how you feel about shit. And not that you're not gonna be scared of it no more, but it's something that's going on. It's something about your psyche that when you face things, it's almost as if your mind. I know what it is. It's something to the effect of your mind always makes shit a little bit scarier than the shit would be in real life. That's what it is. Your mind always make shit, no matter how scary some shit really is, it seems like your mind has the propensity to make shit a little bit scarier than that shit would really be. And so even when you're talking about shit that's really affected you from your past that you have not faced, it's still a matter of your brain protecting you to such an extent that you have trained yourself to not even really look at certain things. And you have done so for so long that you subconsciously think that if you did, you would not be able to take it, which is why your brain does things like suppress things and so on and so forth. And so, going back to what we're talking about with a journey, a spiritual journey, and things like that, even if you don't get super close to directly looking at certain things or that's so suppressed that it might take even more like seeking therapy and things like that, even if you just do it on any type of level, when you start talking about expanding your mind, even if you talking about meditation, even if you're not if you even if you're talking about psychedelics, even if you're talking about a lot of things that people practice, they can do it through prayer. A lot of people music, a lot of the it's so many different things. So I'm definitely not advocating for any particular type of spiritual journey. I'm just saying when you go and you get in these type of states and you go on these type of journeys, or even like like you decide to go on a fast or Lent comes around, Ramadan, things like that, or even in any other part times in your life to where you just decide to like develop a certain discipline, let's just say. And you say, I'm about to go and I'm about to start doing this, exercising, or not smoking, or not drinking, or whatever it might be. That's the same thing that I'm talking about as well. It's like the little journey that you're trying to get better. You're trying to become a different individual. You're trying to accomplish some type of goal. And so when you start talking about what people call like shadow work, for instance, we have to make sure that we make that type of shit a part of our life because when you get to that type of inner journey, that type of centering, that's the type of thing that does just that, which is center you. When you center, you can do what? You can you're stable. That shit makes you less likely to fall. You know what I mean? So I mean, we this is where we at. This is what we have to do. So again, again, the gambit, real talk. We have to make sure that we do this because we have to make sure that we are not placing ourselves in a victim type of mentality. I know a lot of people are trying to help. They got a lot of shit that they like to talk about, but we don't have to always talk about the bad shit that happened in the past. I know a lot of people are a lot are well versed in a lot of different or one thing. I'll just say, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, not, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to talk no shit a lot or anything like that. But we shift into a different paradigm. Is what I'm trying to say. I said it already. There's a lot of people that's they are leading people in a very good way as they go through the novice level, and they are experts at certain subjects that they have studied thoroughly, and that's a very good introduction to where we're trying to go. But as we shift in this next paradigm, we got to make sure that we are growing and moving along. You know what I mean? So yeah, not to not so it's just something I wanted to get into, man. So yeah, we got to keep we have to and we will keep it moving. So yeah, so it's just about that, and it's about education, which is the next topic. We gotta make sure that we educate, and I won't spend too much time on this topic because I talked about it on a couple of different platforms, a lot of different times. We just got to make sure that we educating ourselves in the manner that we can level up, because, like I said previously, excuse me, we just know when we are in these situations to where we are one test away, a couple classes away, an associate's degree away, a bachelor's degree away, whatever it may be, even if it is not school, even if it's a certificate away, especially if you're doing something that you really want to do, from making a lot more money, from moving up to another position, from your whole life being different. So a lot of times education is just one of those things that we could just use to level up. Whether your opinion is that you should go to college or not. I'm talking about even if you want to, CDLs, whatever it may be, an array of different things. So that is so much of a key, but it's again the mindset. It's got to be one of those things that people find important. I see a lot of different areas and a lot of different things that I've seen before in which people really want to move forward and they kind of feel like they don't know what's holding them back, but it's just the attitude that people have toward education about just knowing shit just in general, whether it be reading up on things or taking, like I said, a test or getting a certificate or going to school, whatever it be, the shit that's not up on people high priority list. And I think people are trying to go get the money, go get the money, go get the money, go get the money, but they not realizing we go back to the marshmallow experiment. Look that shit up if you don't know what that is. People kind of don't get the concept of kind of focusing on later slash tomorrow a little bit more and having your shit be sweet forever than hurrying up and hurrying up and hurrying up and always worrying about now, get to the money, get to the money, get to the money. When you really would get more money if you could, I don't want to say not be broke for now, but just kind of like do whatever you got to do. You know your personal situation, do whatever you got to do to kind of level up. Even if you still got to keep going to work, you might have to sacrifice some of your personal time when you're not at work. You know what I mean? To work on the things that you're trying to do as an entrepreneur, as a student, or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's just how it goes. So I just wanted to talk about education for a little bit. We talked about that shit a lot. We gonna talk about that shit a lot more. But hell yeah. So look, I just wanted to holler at y'all right quick, and I know that wasn't right quick, but I guess we'll try to start coming on here every day, at least eventually every day, at least every week, at least a couple times a week. And I got more content coming up for you guys. I told y'all the album Clarity, April. So we're gonna talk about hip hop, and we're gonna talk about ownership. Coming up next. A couple days, these next couple of videos, D Gambit, Life Innovations, the League. We got to get to that real shit. I wouldn't have it no other way. Yeah, that's it, man. So much love, peace. Not like this. That's separate. Keep it together. Peace. Yeah. Much love. Love y'all. We gonna keep this shit cracking. We gonna keep this shit going. We gonna do what we gotta do. We gonna grow to where we gotta go. Peace, man.